I was 14 and my parents had just started trusting me to stay home alone on a Friday night. We live in a peaceful suburb in Pennsylvania. Quiet streets, every neighbor knows your name, and you never lock the front door. That night, my older sister was over at her friend Jake's house, and my mom and dad slipped out around 7 p.m. for dinner nearby. I felt like I hit the jackpot. A full night to myself with snacks, my phone, and a Netflix series marathon. Scout, our golden retriever, curled up beside me as I tracked episode after episode. It was so normal, just me and my dog, relaxing in our safe little bubble. I remember thinking, this is freedom. It was around 9 p.m. I was half watching Netflix, half texting my best friend Jenna about some stupid meme. Scout was passed out beside me, snoring like a little machine. Then, out of nowhere, he jolted upright. No bark, no growl, just staring. His head tilted toward the front window, frozen. I laughed nervously and said, "You're being weird, bud." But he didn't even blink. His body was stiff, ears perked. That's when I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. Soft, but sharp, coming from the front window. I paused the show, muted everything. My heart was already starting to race, and I hadn't even stood up yet. Scout didn't move a muscle, just stared. And suddenly, our cozy little living room didn't feel so cozy anymore. I slowly crept toward the front window and peeked through the side curtain. Nothing. Just the porch light glowing over an empty stoop. No footsteps, no shadow. Just stillness. I felt a tight knot form in my chest. I took a slow breath to calm myself, brushing it off, maybe a branch or a bird. Then, tap, tap, louder, sharper, closer. I froze, cleared my throat and called out, "Who's there?" No answer, not a word, just the sound of my own heartbeat suddenly pounding in my ears. A memory popped into my head. This creepy Reddit post I read a few weeks ago about a guy who caught someone watching him through his window. And the guy smiled. I backed away and made sure the front door was locked. Then I checked the porch cam feed on my phone. It flickered with static. That's when I knew something wasn't right. I started pacing. Scout was low growling now, not barking, just this deep, constant rumble coming from his throat. He wouldn't take his eyes off the window. I tried to shake it off. Walked toward the kitchen to calm down, and that's when I noticed it. The sliding glass door at the back of the house. The trim wasn't lined up. It was slightly ajar. I froze. My stomach dropped. Did I forget to lock that? No way. I was sure I did. But now, I wasn't so sure. Outside, the trees swayed in the dark, and every creak and gust of wind sounded like footsteps. My ears felt tuned to everything, too much. I grabbed my phone and called Jenna. My voice cracked halfway through. Someone might be outside, maybe trying to get in. She didn't even hesitate. Get somewhere safe. Lock yourself in. Now. I didn't even hang up. I just ran to the hall closet, yanked out my old Little League bat, and held it tight. My palms were already slick with sweat. Scout stayed at the door, still growling. Something was out there. I could feel it. I crept toward the sliding door, bat in hand, trying to steady my breathing. Every step felt heavy, like my body knew something my brain didn't want to admit. When I got close enough, I peeked through the curtains, and there he was. A shadowy silhouette, still, motionless, standing just beyond the glass. Not moving, not speaking, just watching. My heart was slamming against my ribs. I couldn't make out his face, just the shape of a man, tall, broad shoulders, wearing something dark. I quietly slid the lock back into place. Click. Then, without thinking, I whispered under my breath, "Stay in the car." No idea why I said it, just panic, just fear spilling out. That's when Scout went ballistic, barking loud, sharp, deep, his fur raised, full defense mode. And the man, he didn't flinch. He took one small step back, then another, and slowly faded into the dark yard. I grabbed my phone with trembling hands. A text from my mom. "Police en route, 8 minutes." 8 minutes felt like a lifetime. I looked back at the yard, but he was gone. Or worse, he wasn't. I bolted upstairs, slammed my sister's bedroom door, and locked it. It was the only room with a deadbolt. I backed into the corner, still clutching the bat, phone pressed to my ear. Jenna was whispering on the other end, telling me to breathe, to stay low. Then, I heard it. Footsteps. Soft at first, then heavier. Creaking the wood floor, coming up the stairs. My grip tightened, my entire body locked up. Suddenly, bang! A door downstairs slammed open, hard. I jumped. Then came the sound of Scout barking again, sharper this time, followed by a low whimper. I huddled behind the dresser, bat raised. The doorknob to the bedroom didn't move, but something rattled in the hallway. And then, crash. Glass shattered below. It sounded like the coffee table, or maybe the kitchen window. The noise rang out like a gunshot. I could feel it in my chest. I was shaking, eyes full of tears, frozen in place. I knew he was inside, and I knew I was next if help didn't get here fast. I heard the front door crash open, then shouting, loud, commanding, "Police, stay where you are." I didn't move at first. I couldn't. My hands were still shaking. My legs felt numb. Then a voice called up the stairs. "Is anyone up here? Say your name." I cracked the door, barely able to speak. "It's me. I'm here." Flashlights hit my face as 2 officers rushed up, eyes scanning every corner. Scout barreled in behind them and jumped into my arms. They led me downstairs. The back sliding door was wide open. Muddy footprints trailed across the kitchen tile. No sign of the guy. He was gone. I pulled out my phone with trembling fingers and texted my mom. "I'm okay." The next morning, I stepped outside with my dad and noticed the porch light cover was missing. There were footprints in the dirt, leading straight to the back gate. I packed a bag to stay at my aunt's for the weekend, but I couldn't shake it. That heavy feeling, like someone was still watching. My parents installed cameras, changed every lock. But I couldn't stop thinking, was he watching earlier? Did he know I was alone? Was the first knock just a test? I never saw his face, never heard his voice. But deep down, I know one thing for sure. He's still out there. It was supposed to be a fresh start. Quiet, peaceful, a place to reset. I'm Ethan. I had just turned 17 when my mom and I moved from Phoenix to a small cabin town in northern Oregon. She had inherited the house from my grandfather, tucked deep in the woods, right at the edge of the national forest. No neighbors close by, just trees and more trees. At first, I thought it was kinda cool. No noise, no traffic, no people. Just silence. But that silence, It started to feel too quiet. The first night she had to go back to the city for work, I stayed home alone. It was just after sunset. The house creaked a lot. Old wood, I figured, but every sound made me look over my shoulder. The air felt thick, like the house was holding its breath. I told myself I was being dramatic, but something felt off. I stayed up late that night, curled into the worn couch in the living room, half watching some zombie movie on mute while scrolling through my phone. The house felt colder than it should have. I kept pulling the blanket tighter around me, but it wasn't just the chill, it was something else. The kind of stillness that makes you feel like you're not really alone, even when you are. The woods outside pressed in through the giant windows, black, endless, like they could swallow the house whole. Every so often, I'd glance at the glass, expecting to see something. I don't even know what. Then it happened. A soft knock. Barely audible. Tap, tap. I froze. It came from the side window. I waited. Another tap. Lighter this time. I told myself it was a branch or maybe some raccoon. Still, my chest tightened. I didn't want to look. What if someone was out there? But not looking felt worse. I sat there, staring at the wall across from me, trying to will myself to stay calm, trying not to move, not to breathe too loud. I don't know how long I sat there, just listening, barely blinking. But eventually, curiosity pushed harder than fear. I needed to know. I stood up slowly, my legs stiff. The floor creaked beneath me as I crept toward the hallway that ran along the side of the house. Every step felt too loud, like the walls were holding their breath with me. I reached the light switch, hand trembling, took one deep breath, then flipped it on. The hallway lit up, and so did the window at the far end. That's when I saw it. A figure. Tall, unnaturally tall. Thin, with long arms that hung at its sides like vines. It stood just beyond the window, facing the glass perfectly still. Its head tilted slightly, like it was trying to see through the house. Then it moved. One arm lifted slowly. It bent at the elbow like a puppet being pulled by invisible strings. Tap, tap, tap. It pressed a long, pale finger against the window pane, tapping gently, rhythmically, still staring. I couldn't move, couldn't scream, my breath caught in my throat. It was like every cell in my body recognized it before my brain did. This wasn't human. I stumbled back from the hallway, nearly tripping over the rug as I killed the light. My heart was slamming in my chest, so loud it felt like it echoed. It was a tree, I whispered to myself, over and over. Just a shadow, a trick of the light, maybe a branch scraping the glass. But deep down, I knew I was lying. I locked every door, drew the blinds, checked the back door twice, then retreated to my room upstairs, shotgun heartbeats still thudding in my ears. I laid in bed, eyes wide open. The darkness outside pressed against the windows like a weight. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that figure again. Those long arms, that tilting head, those dead, unblinking eyes. Then came the noise. A faint scratching sound beneath the window, like nails on wood. I held my breath. It stopped. Then the floor creaked in the hallway. No footsteps, just one creak. But it was enough. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. The next few nights were worse. I kept telling myself it was over, that maybe I imagined it. But then I started noticing things. Little things. On the second night, I spotted what looked like scratch marks along the window frame downstairs. Not random either. Deliberate. Deep. Like something had claws. Another night. I could have sworn I heard breathing outside my bedroom window. Not wind, not animals. Breathing. Slow, wet, rhythmic. We had a dog, Max. Big old mutt. Part shepherd, part something else. Usually lazy and friendly. But one night, just after 3 a.m., he shot up from my bedroom floor and started growling at the window. Not barking, growling. Low and guttural, like he wanted to tear something apart. That's when I really started to panic. I began digging around online. Checked police sites, forums, Reddit. Found reports of break-ins and missing pets nearby. A few users mentioned a tall man spotted at the edge of their property, always watching. It all lined up. Whatever it wasn't just passing through. It was watching. And now, it was watching me. I couldn't take it anymore. The sleepless nights, the whispers in the dark, Max growling at shadows, it was all closing in. So I decided to fight back. I blocked every downstairs window with blankets and duct tape. I set up motion alarms from my mom's old security kit, grabbed a baseball bat and kept my phone fully charged and in my pocket. That night, I didn't go to bed. I sat in the living room, lights off, just me and Max. He laid beside me, alert, ears twitching at every sound. The silence wasn't comforting. It was suffocating, heavy. Every second crawled by. Midnight, 1 a.m., 2:13, then bang. A single, deafening thud on the front door. I jumped to my feet, heart racing. The hallway light flickered once, then again. Max stood rigid, teeth bared, a low growl rising in his throat. I gripped the bat tighter. No more hiding. Whoever, or whatever, was out there. I was done being afraid. I stormed toward the front door, adrenaline burning through the fear. I flipped on the porch lights and yanked the blinds open. He was there. Tall, thin, wrong. Standing just at the edge of the steps. Same figure I saw days ago, head tilted, arms hanging loose like broken branches. "Stay away," I shouted through the glass. "I swear, I'll call the police." He didn't move, didn't flinch, just stared, like he was studying me, like he already knew what I would do. Then, with a twitch, he moved. Not turned, not walked. Scuttled. Sideways, backwards, fluid and unnatural, like a spider folding into itself. He vanished into the darkness beyond the tree line. I couldn't take it. I threw open the door and ran onto the porch, bat in hand, chest heaving. There was nothing, but the ground told another story. Footprints. Fresh, deep in the mud, they circled the house, paused under windows, even the second-story deck. He'd been here, all around me, watching, testing. This wasn't just about fear anymore. It was a game, and I was the piece he chose to play with. The sun finally rose, casting a pale orange over the trees like nothing had happened, like the night hadn't cracked something open. I walked the property with Max, broom in hand, brushing away the muddy footprints, though part of me wanted to leave them, to prove I wasn't imagining this. I double-checked every lock, boarded one of the side windows, made sure the shotgun was loaded. When my mom came back that afternoon, I told her everything. She listened, frowning, but I could tell she thought I was just sleep-deprived or paranoid. "It's probably a hunter passing through," she said. "They sometimes wander close." I nodded, didn't argue. But I didn't sleep. Even with Max curled beside me, every creak of the house sounded like footsteps. Every shadow on the ceiling felt like it was watching me. Just before dawn the next morning, I sat up in bed and looked across the room. One window, fogged from the inside, and right there in the center, a pale handprint slowly pressing into the glass. From the outside, it was supposed to be peaceful, a quiet weekend away from everything, but the moment I stepped out of the car, something felt off. This happened in early October, 2023. I had just gotten through one of the busiest months of my life. Work, deadlines, non-stop notifications. I needed out. So I booked a small lakeside cabin way up in northern Michigan. Solo trip. No phone, no noise, just me and the woods. The place was cheap, almost suspiciously cheap. But the pictures looked cozy, wood paneling, a wraparound porch, huge windows that faced the lake. The owner messaged once to confirm the key code and said, "Enjoy the quiet. Sometimes it's too quiet up there." I laughed that off. The drive took almost 6 hours. The last 30 minutes were nothing but winding dirt roads, trees closing in on all sides. No signal. No signs of other houses, just woods. When I pulled up to the cabin, I noticed how still everything was. Not peaceful still, unnerving still. No wind, no birds. The air felt heavy, like it was holding its breath. I grabbed my bag and stepped onto the porch. The wood creaked under me, and I swear, right before I unlocked the door, I felt like someone was watching me. The next morning, I woke up just after sunrise. The cabin was freezing, the kind of cold that made you second guess opening the front door. But I did anyway. I figured some fresh air and a walk by the lake would clear my head. At first, it was beautiful. The water was still, glass-like. Mist clung to the surface in long fingers, and the trees across the lake looked ghostly in the fog. But then I noticed something. The quiet. No birds, no bugs. Just the sound of my own boots crunching against wet leaves. Halfway along the trail, I saw them. Footprints. Just one set. Human, bare. They trailed off from the dirt path and vanished into the dense trees. My stomach dropped. I stood there for a minute, frozen, trying to rationalize it. "Must have been a hiker," I muttered out loud, though my voice didn't sound convinced. The prints looked fresh, edges sharp, like they hadn't been there long. Back at the cabin, I forced myself to shake it off and unpack. Maybe I was just spooking myself. Maybe being alone out here was getting in my head. But then, on the porch, just to the left of the front window, I saw scratch marks. 4 vertical gouges, deep and jagged. They started near the bottom and stretched way up, at least 6 feet. I stared at them, chilled. Too high for a raccoon, too wide for a cat. I looked toward the woods again. Still nothing. Just trees, watching. By 10 p.m., the cabin was locked up tight. I double-checked the doors, pulled the blackout curtains shut, and turned off all but one lamp. The kind of silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was loud. Every creak in the floorboards made my skin crawl. The occasional ping on the tin roof or rustle outside the window kept me flinching. I tried to laugh it off. "Just squirrels," I whispered. "Just nature doing its thing." But my voice didn't even sound real in that silence. I sat on the couch for a while, scrolling through old photos on my phone, even without service. At some point, I drifted off. Then, around 2 a.m., a loud knock, sharp, deliberate, right against the window behind me. I froze. My blood felt like ice in my veins. Another knock, closer, heavier. I whispered, "Who's there?" Silence. I didn't want to move, but I forced myself to crawl across the floor toward the window. I peeled the curtain back an inch, just enough to see. And there it was. Someone was standing out there. Not moving, not flinching, just standing in the dark. Pale skin, no shirt, couldn't make out a face. Just the shape of him, tall, thin, like he'd been carved out of bone. He didn't move, didn't try to knock again, he just stared. I dropped the curtain and slumped back, heart jackhammering in my chest. I don't know how long I sat like that. Knees pulled to my chest, eyes fixed on that window. But I never heard him leave. And I didn't sleep. I just waited for morning. I barely made it through the night. The sun came up, but it didn't bring any comfort. I was exhausted, nerves frayed, hands trembling as I made coffee I couldn't even drink. Every shadow outside looked like it was moving. Every creak sounded like footsteps. I paced the cabin, thinking, should I leave? Pack up and get out while it was daylight? I grabbed my phone. No service. Not even one bar. I tried standing on the porch, holding it up. Nothing. That's when I saw them. Footprints. Fresh. Bare. Human. They weren't just in one spot. They circled the cabin, full loops, with clear stops at every single window, even the little one over the bathroom sink. The thought hit me hard. He'd been watching, moving from room to room while I sat there, unaware. My stomach twisted. I ran back inside and checked every lock. Twice. Doors, windows, even the attic hatch. Then I shoved the couch in front of the back door, dragged a heavy chair under the front knob, blocked the hallway with the dresser. I couldn't relax, couldn't sit. Every time the wind rustled a branch, I flinched. He had been out there, watching, waiting. I didn't even pretend to sleep that night. Paranoia had its claws in me. I sat in the center of the living room, flashlight gripped tight, every curtain drawn, every door barricaded. My back ached from how tense I'd been for hours. Every sound made my stomach clench. Every shift of the cabin's old wood felt like a step. By 1:30 a.m., my heart was thudding so hard I could hear it. That's when I heard it. Tap. Tap, tap. It wasn't the knock from last night. This was softer, almost gentle, like fingernails on wood. It was coming from the screened-in porch, just outside the living room window. I froze. The tapping continued, steady and slow, like some sick metronome. I stood up, legs weak beneath me, and slowly raised the flashlight toward the window. The beam cut through the dark and landed on a tall silhouette, standing just beyond the screen door. Still, motionless, facing me. He didn't blink, didn't tilt his head. He just stood there. Tap, tap, tap. Slower now, deliberate, as if mocking me. My hand was shaking so bad, the flashlight beam wobbled across the screen. I forced myself to say something. Get away. The tapping stopped. The figure stepped back once, almost politely. I didn't wait. I yanked the curtain open, slammed the porch light switch. Empty. He was gone. No sound, no footprints, no hint of where he went. I sprinted outside, lights scanning the porch, the trees, the ground. Nothing. The dirt was undisturbed, not a single mark. It was like he'd never been there. That broke me. I bolted back inside, grabbed my keys, wallet, and phone, and didn't even shut the door behind me. I started the car and peeled out of that driveway like something was already in the back seat. I didn't stop driving for miles, not until I saw the first streetlight. The next morning, after driving most of the night, I stopped at a ranger station just off the highway. I told them everything, about the man, the tapping, the footprints, the scratches. They barely blinked. One ranger said, "We get reports now and then. Probably just a squatter, someone off their meds." No investigation, no follow-up, just a shrug and a clipboard. I never got a refund. The cabin listing vanished a few days later, completely wiped off the site. No contact, no explanation. Back home, I tried to move on, but sleep doesn't come easy. Some nights I wake up sweating, convinced someone's outside my window again, and sometimes I swear I see him. That tall, faceless shape, just standing there, watching. I used to think solo trips into nature were peaceful, cleansing, even. Now I know better. Sometimes, when you're all alone in the woods, you're not alone at all.